Yep. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Ohio State Buckeyes Call-In Show. I'm your co-host Ryan Stano.
I'm Garrison Gaddy.
Well, Garrison, we've had more than a few things happen since we last talked on Monday. I know we put a video out yesterday for the people, but I've even gathered more thoughts since then about the Matt Patricia hiring. He is now the defensive coordinator for the Buckeyes. Tim Walton is technically a co-DC with him, but the Buckeyes went outside and found someone who used to work in the NFL to help run the defense. I know you're feeling pretty good about the hire initially. Have your thoughts changed at all since we last, had our video?
No, I'm still in a wait or see mode. I believe that in terms of just football, I like the hire. I know some people like you are a little bit slower to like it, and I understand it. It's not a foreign thought process to be a little against it right now. But at the same time, in terms of football, I look at the guy's past, I look at where he's been. If he had any other name, I think that it would look a little bit different. I think people would be a little bit more on board. I think anytime you get a guy that has 3 championship Super Bowls under his wing and on his fingers, I think you should be happy about it. He is someone who has touched the pinnacle. The Super Bowl is the pinnacle of this sport, bar none. And he's been a part of it. Now, depending on how much success, how much credit to the success you want to give him, that's to each their own. But as of right now, I'm in a wait or see mode. But until then, I'm happy with the hire. I think it's a successful hire. I think we hired someone that has accomplished 99.9% better than anyone else in college football has done. I'm good with it.
Yeah, and even since we had last spoken, I think I still have all of the same thoughts I did before, even with that video. I still don't like the hire. Even digging more back into what was happening with the defenses that he coordinated, the final, I know we talked about that final year, in 2017, they were the 4th worst defense in terms of yards per game in that year. Now, every other year, he did have some pretty good defenses. They were, in the top 10, maybe one was in the top 5 as well. But then things changed once he became a head coach with Detroit. And I know you mentioned we're not asking him to be the head coach, which is true. We don't want him leading the program, thank God. But I still would have liked to have seen a little bit more success with that team, and especially on the defense. With him being a defensive, he was hired as a defensive mind. I wish I would have seen the Lions not be truly terrible. And I would have liked to have seen his tenure with the Philadelphia Eagles end up a little bit better. He coordinated the last 4 games with the Philadelphia Eagles during his stint with them in 2023. And I believe they, that was the stretch that almost got Nick Sirianni fired because of how poorly the defense was playing. So, again, and you've mentioned this about trusting Ryan Day, coming off the national championship and trusting in what he wants to do with this program. At this point, that's really all you can do is trust him and hope that the hire works out, even though I am still not a fan.
What do you, from now till the season starts, what do you need to see to be happy?
I need to see.
Or not happy, but comfortable. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah, nothing between now and the season would make me happy. He couldn't do anything between now and before the season. To make me comfortable, I want to see how he utilizes certain players. I know we had talked about how they were more than likely going to move CJ Hicks to the edge. I want to see if that's still something that they're looking to do because he does seem to be more effective on the edge as he is just a standard linebacker. I want to see how they use the defensive back. So, even though they lose Hancock and Burke, they've still got Igbinosun and Jermaine Matthews back there. And they've still got, Aaron Scott, Devin Sanchez coming in. We mentioned all those guys before. So I want to know how guys are going to be used. That's really what I want to see. And I don't know if that's even going to make me necessarily comfortable. I guess we'll see with the spring. It's not a spring game anymore. Spring contest. I want to see how those guys perform against an offense that will have a brand new starting quarterback with it, and really shouldn't take them to task. So if that offense does take them to task, I'll be worried.
Would you have been more comfortable with a hire like Gary Airy? And if so, why?
I think yes. And the reason being because they think he's really like him as a defensive mind. They think he's a rising star. He's been with Jim Knowles, for at least a year now. He's coordinated defenses in the past in college. Mm-hmm. And he's done it way more recently than Patricia has. The last time Patricia was a full-time coordinator was way back in 2017, like I mentioned. And you know what? If they're gonna just Ryan Day could sell me on just having a full young cast of coordinators and coaches around him, be like, hey, we're gonna internally build this thing, and we're gonna keep going off the momentum that we have for the national championship, and we're all on the same quote unquote timeline. So I could buy that. Now, again, we've talked about this before. Would I be enthused about having a first-time offensive coordinator and a first-time?
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going with that.
Look, he wouldn't be a first-time defensive coordinator. He coordinated, with IU and I think James Madison as well, or Duke. I'm sorry, it was Duke. So, he's done it before, but that wouldn't exactly give me all the warm and fuzzies either. So, I just wish they would have gotten almost any other hire.
I don't know, man. I truly believe you're a little bit too down on this hire. I understand that. I understand that his success was a while ago. I understand that we've talked about everything else about the guy under the sun, but in terms of football, in terms of what what he brings to the table, the guy has. What, 2 decades of football coaching experience now? I just don't know what other position. If you told me we had a chance to either bring him on or give Gary Airy or Coach Walt the position, I would tell you, give him the position. I'm just not. Well, I don't want to sit here and act like the guy doesn't have a wonderful football brain. He's been around the best. He's coached for the best.
My question is, if he's such a good defensive mind, why did he have to coordinate the Patriots offense and then become an offensive line coach?
Probably because when he came back that season, there he had someone that was locked in for DC.
Okay, but again, if he's such a great defensive mind, why not put him as a coach? At least have him coach some sort of defensive position. Defensive line, do something.
Well, my honest response to you on that is that in the NFL, they are more likely to hire you with offensive background than a defensive background as a coordinator. So probably Bill's trying to give him a chance to do so.
Maybe. Since the video yesterday,
Bill could have hired anybody else. There's a lot of people Bill could have hired before those Super Bowls. He hired him, and if it was anyone else that was in that position, we would give that guy full credit. I think it's easy to pile on to him and say, "Oh, he's under Bill Belichick," or "Oh, he's unlikable," or this, that, or the third. It's just easy to do that because of the name and because of his name and what's been put out in the media for the last 5-10 years, let's say. All that's been put out. At the end of the day, Bill Belichick is someone he thought he should have on his roster, or I'm sorry, on his staff. Depending on whatever job position it was, he said, "No, I need that guy, or I want that guy on my staff." And again, for like whether it be the Lions, whether it be the Eagles or anyone like that, if they are willing to continue to keep this man around or keep him around the NFL circles, there's a reason why.
And that's where my final concern comes in. He wasn't kept around NFL circles last year. He was not working.
1 year. That's 1 year.
So then that makes you all of a sudden qualified to be the defensive coordinator for Ohio State. Like he's completely out of college. Like he's not just out of the NFL. He's out of football, period. And it wasn't his choice. It's not like, hey, I'm going to take a step back, hang with the family, stuff like that. Like he was actively trying to get jobs, and no one would give him one.
How many jobs do you think Urban Meyer could get right now?
In college, he could have a head coaching job at college pretty quickly. No, maybe not to the one.
Like, who cares how long he's been away? The guy, we can't listen. We can't sit here and act like there's one thing I'm not okay with doing, and I don't want to poo-poo on guys that have reached the pinnacle, guys that have done things in their careers that other men in football, or men and women, whatever, wish they could accomplish. There are a lot of people who are going to go to their grave and they're never going to accomplish what he did as a defensive coordinator for the New England Patriots.
Here is, and I know you've talked about that, and I know I've also mentioned, Belichick was in control a large amount of those defensive years. Like he was the guy who was calling the defenses, putting the game plans together and everything like that. Now, Patricia definitely deserves some credit. Like let's make that clear. It wasn't just Belichick doing absolutely everything. But, I'd be remiss to say that it wasn't mostly Belichick with the defense. And the fact that Belichick doesn't exactly have a long list of his assistants and coordinators don't exactly have a long list of success going other places. The Belichick coaching tree doesn't have a lot of success, despite how vast and how lengthy it is. I'm trying to. I guess you could argue Josh McDaniels is probably the most successful one, and it wasn't as a head coach. It was as being an offensive coordinator again for those Patriots teams, and then he came back and coordinated again, and led them to another Super Bowl. So but as far as like head coaches go, there isn't one, which is fine because we're not looking for a head coach. But I think I'm kind of just at this point just regurgitating the same stuff. Where we'll see what happens in the fall. We'll see what happens when they've actually got the personnel figured out. And I think part of the reason why they promoted Tim Walton to a co-DC is to have him be the recruiter. Because, we both talked about, I don't think Patricia's going to be recruiting is not going to be his strength. So I think that's part of the reason for that promotion.
Well, let me, this is actually a really interesting question I have for you. Do you have any takes on how he sounds right now, his physical appearance, some of the
Patricia?
Yeah.
He's lost a lot of weight. That's obvious. He's probably
what does that tell you?
Whatever GL1P he's choosing, which is fine.
What does that tell you?
That tells me his wife wants him to stop being fat. He's people have many reasons to do it. I'm not going to correlate him losing weight to necessarily him being a good football coach all of a sudden.
He's a good football coach.
Being a good defensive coordinator for Ohio State, let me specify. I'm not going to correlate the two. I'm not going to correlate him losing weight to all of a sudden him being a super.
No. I think it says something about his dedication and his. I think it says a lot about your dedication to be that big and get where you are, because you can see it in his face. I think it says a lot about your about how you see yourself and where you want to be. I think I take a lot from it. Because you could easily, someone in his position could easily stay the way he wants to stay.
Of course, yeah.
I
guess it's good he's saying he's not like quote unquote giving up. You know what I mean? I guess that's good.
I think this hire is going to be much nicer than you think, and most of it has to do because I trust Ryan Day. I really do.
Fair enough. I think we've talked enough about that. there was some other news that came out, and it's news I think both of us are pretty pleased with, and that's Sam William-Dixon coming back, pulling his name out of the transfer portal. Had been in there for quite a while, and then didn't like the option, so he's going to come back to Columbus. And I know you're a big fan of him, so talk to me about what you think about this news.
I think it's huge for us. I think it's just exactly what we needed, especially in that running back room. It's another scholarship guy that we have. Sam Williams-Dixon has, for where he is right now in his career at his age, he has size, he has strength. I wouldn't call him the most athletic guy, but a lot of the running back position, as I said on here before, is instinctual. Do you know when someone's coming? Can you anticipate? When someone moves left, does your foot automatically make you go right? Like things like that. I think he has all those tangibles. I think he's a really good football player. And again, in terms of just the running back room, you're talking about a senior guy in Donaldson Jr. And then you're talking about James Peoples, sophomore. Then you have him, who's going to be a sophomore. And you got 2 freshmen mainly behind him, and a bunch of walk-ons. I think this is exactly what we needed. I think it creates some competition in that room. Because now we're talking about, Donaldson's going to get his snaps. Peoples is going to get his snaps. But you've been gone for the last month or so now. You got to compete with Bo. You got to compete with Turbo. You're going to have to do that. But that's what I want. So how about you?
Yeah, no, I think it's big for the Buckeyes. Like you mentioned, Ohio State doesn't exactly have a stable full of guys who are proven.
Mm-hmm.
They, losing both Trey and Quinshon, which was expected. They were down to 1 scholarship running back who had been on the roster last year. And obviously Donaldson Jr. is going to be the starter. He's good. He's proven how good he is. I agree with you. I think Peoples is probably going to be the number 2. And then I think Williams-Dixon will probably win the number 3 job just because he's been in the offense before. Mm-hmm. But you're right. He will have to compete with Turbo Rogers for that spot. I don't think they're just going to give it to him necessarily. I do think he's got the inside track on it just because he's been, in the offense. And in the limited snaps he got last year, I thought he looked pretty good. I know he only got 7 carries, 53 yards, but that's pretty darn good. 5 yards a pop. So yeah. We'll see what happens with him. More depth at the running back position is never bad. So, and at this point, you're not really going to add any more guys. So it's kind of an added bonus here late in February or mid-February.
No. And what I also like about this is that I think we have the offense set up for the next 2 years. That's what I really like. I think that we see a lot of the guys right now who are going to be contributors this season are going to be here the following season. I think I do believe there's going to be a chance for guys like Turbo and Bo Jackson get on the field. After that Texas game, I think you're going to have about 3 to 4 weeks where House is going to start knocking teams off really easily. The guys can get in there. It's kind of like the way James Peoples did. During the conference play, James Peoples didn't play a lot. And then when he came in the game, you could see his play kind of suffer a little bit because, the competition is better. You're playing better athletes. You're playing guys that have been around the game for a little bit longer than you have. So, I'm happy about it. I'm happy he came back. I do wish I was a fly on the wall to figure out why he came back outside of the obvious is that the market, the running back market. I remember I heard Chip Patterson say this once. And, Bud Elliott. And he said that the running back market in college football is not far away from what it is in the NFL. So,
yeah, I would be interested to see what that is. But, you're right. Williams-Dixon, Bo Jackson, Turbo Rogers, they're all going to get – their playing time is going to come against Grambling State in Ohio. Like OU, that's pretty much the only guaranteed games that they're going to play. Maybe Minnesota as well or, at Purdue because those teams are probably going to stink as well. But – we'll see.
I can agree with that.
There we go.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, and you know what? That's perfectly fine. We need to get Donaldson and you need to get Peoples more reps during the games that actually kind of matter. I don't want people who are unproven playing in, the big games.
You sure?
No, I'm perfectly sure on that, yeah.
All right, so let's bring Brooks up here right now.
Yeah, go ahead. Bring him in.
Yo, what's up, Garrison? Ryan, what's up, man?
What's going on?
What's going on? So how do you guys feel about this? Just are you guys like nervous a little, or do you think he can? Because Buckeye fans are really divided. Some think it's an A grade, some think it's a great grade, but I feel like they're faking it. I don't know, dude. Just what are your guys' takes on this?
We're split on this show as well. Garrison is more positive on this hire, and I could not be more negative about it. we're pretty polarized on it.
And
like, I'm right where you are. I'm like around a C, B range higher right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. And listen, I feel like my fan base is celebrating way too early. You know, Michigan fans are already celebrating about this Matt Patricia hire because he was on Detroit Lions and he did bad. You need to understand that college and being a DC and being a head coach is two different jobs. He can be really good. Like Chip Kelly is a perfect example, man. Like he was not a great head coach for UCLA, I would say, but he was a pretty good in OC. He won a natty, you know. So, but people don't understand is I don't want to see. I'm really protective of my university. I want us to have a good reputation. I want us to have the best fan bases, and I don't want them to get clowned, you know. And them making videos of celebration. Matt Patricia is the coach. He was so bad on the Lions. It's over. Da 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 da. You know, like it's gonna if he's good, Matt Patricia, all right, then they're gonna get all clowned and it's gonna age like crap. Their videos of doing that. You know what I'm saying?
That would be the goal. I mean, as negative as I am about the hire, that would be the best case scenario. What I worry about is that he was out of football completely last year. He hasn't exclusively coordinated the defense since 2017. So it's been, 8-9 years. And I don't think he's going to be a particularly strong recruiter. Add that to the fact that just on the defensive side of the roster, they're losing 8-9 starters. So there's going to be a lot of guys that are new. So put that in a pot, stew it around, and that, leaves me with a sour taste on this hire.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting, man. I'm actually, I tell you, I was shocked when they hired him. Were you shocked?
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was gonna say. I mean, I wasn't shocked just because we'd heard the rumors.
Okay.
And eventually, when one of these rumors pops up, one of them is going to stick. I mean, we'd heard rumors about Bates, Cullen, a Guerrieri, Walton, co-DC situation. So, you knew at some point. And then once you heard that he was actually in Columbus, like that was the first time we'd heard that someone had actually made a trip to Columbus. At that point, you kind of knew it was done. And as much as I didn't like it, I knew it was done. What were you surprised, Garrison?
No, I wasn't. A lot of that had to do with, as we talked about earlier, his track record. I thought that you looked at the names that were coming up for Ohio State, and there's only one name I would have picked over him. That would have been Danton Len. Excuse me, but when I saw the news that he was in Columbus, that's not like a done deal to me. Like the way I saw Burks was just that. Like, and again, like I'm a Buckeye fan, but I live in the state of Michigan. I expected Michigan State, Michigan/Lions fans to go ahead and hate this hire. Like that, if I was any Buckeye fan, I wouldn't worry about what they're saying. Because the NFL is not college football, and we're not asking to be our head coach. It's a completely different situation. On top of that, what I told Ryan earlier was just when it comes to accolades, when it comes to doing your job, as far as I'm concerned, he's done his job very well in his career. I mean, we can point out the Lions situation, we can do that, but at the end of it, we can't take the worst of someone and then take away the best. And when it comes to the best, this guy is a Super Bowl champ. It'd be like let's say if all right, let's put out a situation where let's say we go out this season and Ohio State's offense is just hitting on all cylinders. At the end of the season, what I don't want to do is then just we can't go and say, oh, Ryan Day gets the credit. Brian Hartline had a job. It's kind of like the same way when I go back to this past season, and after the Michigan game, and everyone kept wanting to blame Ryan Day. And I said, well, wait 1 second here. Now, if he gets blamed, yeah, it's because he's the general overall. But someone had to call those plays, and we gave Chip Kelly a job for a reason. So as much as I do respect Bill Belichick to be probably the greatest defensive mind ever, up there with Nick Saban, someone had to call those plays. Someone had to have a job, and that job just happened to be his. So I'm okay with the hire. I wouldn't say I'm happy about it, but I'm very comfortable with it. There's a long track record of NFL coaches, specifically on defense, that come down to this college game, and they manhandle everybody.
Yeah, Steve, this is the exact argument I made as well. Part of that, as far as Belichick, they don't have his assistants, quite frankly, don't have a whole lot of success when they get away from him. So that's a concern of mine as well. Now, as annoyed and angry as I am about this hire, I am totally willing to be proven wrong. And Ryan Day has, because of the national championship, he has earned a certain amount of grace, and this falls into that category. So, if this is the hire he wants to make, this is the hire he wants to make, and we'll just have to see what happens. I'm not going to totally crush him for it, because he is coming off a national title, and I would have liked to think he's learned something from that. And I would like to think he's learned from the failure of promoting Kerry Combs as a full-time DC. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, no, it's going to be really interesting. And I just hope that and listen, Ryan Day is a Buckeye legend at the end of the day. He won a natty for you guys. There's some people who still want him fired, which is, in my opinion, it's just being ungrateful at this point on Twitter, especially just because he can't beat Michigan. But, you just have to trust in Ryan Day now. And I think, he's – and last thing I just want to say is that, if you guys lose to Michigan this year, just please tell your fan base not to threaten him, because I am not going to lie. Ryan Day is a good guy, believe it or not. After that video you saw of that Michigan fan trolling him, and he just smiled and walked out. That's class mentality. You know what I'm saying? That is and he's a New Hampshire guy. New Hampshire people are pretty nice guys compared to Boston area. So, yeah, man, that's all I got to say, man.
All right, appreciate you calling in here, Burks.
Yeah, take care, man.
Too. So, Ron, you just said something.
To Brooks' point, just there at the very end, we would never condone anyone to threaten anybody. But also, Day, we talked about this after the natty. He's got a 2 or 3 year grace period on fixing that issue at this point. But it is an issue that needs corrected, no doubt. And I still think it's something that will get corrected next year, personally.
So I do want to, because I heard you say this. I heard you I want to say you slipped it in, but you said you think you hope he learned his lesson from hiring Kerry Combs. Kerry Combs is not in the same discussion or the same sentence with the same book as Matt Patricia. That's like comparing a 5-week deer to a complete 10-point buck bull.
The comparison is not it's not apples to apples. Of course not. Patricia had at least coordinated the defense before, and yes, he won significantly.
Kerry Combs is damn near 60s and had never done that. Damn near in your 60s, you've never done that. That says a lot about you.
Yeah, like I said, the comparison is not the same. But my point in making that was that is the only hire so far. Well, one of 2 hires so far that have been disasters. The other one was Parker Fleming, and that, he corrected that error before last season. Yeah. Other than that, every other hire he's had has been spot on. The Jim Knowles hire was A+, Chip Kelly A+, Tim Walton A+. He's got a good track record of hiring other guys. So like I said, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt in that, and we'll see what happens.
At the end of the day, this, would you call this? Would this be of all the hires he has made? Wouldn't this be one with the best track record?
The best track record? No.
As a coach, so which coach on our coaching staff has done more than him?
So
than Matt Patricia.
I mean, besides Ryan Day,
Mhm.
Larry Johnson. I'd say Larry Johnson has the best track record.
Hell no.
He's won 2 national championships.
As a position coach.
Like for Ohio State.
As a position coach.
I mean, for a while, he was considered the best defensive line coach in the country, one of the best recruiters in the country, period.
The best defensive line coach in college football is not the three-time Super Bowl DC. And again, we're holding Larry up to something that he ain't anymore.
Correct.
So if we're gonna do that for Matt, for Matt Patricia.
You're right. He is not that anymore. But I'm saying overall, with the track record on our staff, I would say him, and especially look, and you have to at least concede this. Patricia's like his arrow is going, it's going down. It's not going up. It's descending. Now the hope is it stopped. It's plateaued and it's about to go back up again. But that remains to be seen.
I mean, it was for Chip Kelly. Was for him too.
Sure, but at least he had track record before of coordinating offenses in college. Well, and he also made a national championship game before as a.
That was a long time ago. Recently, Chip Kelly was at UCLA. That wasn't that didn't do a good job there. You came out of the NFL. You didn't do good there. His track record outside of Ryan Day, it ain't Matt Patricia's.
It's
the only thing he's done better than Matt Patricia is that he had one better NFL season. Because outside of that,
Chip Kelly at least made the playoffs as an NFL head coach. Patricia did.
But Patricia has 3 rings. I am never going to
He's got 3 rings because he played on the same team as Tom Brady and was coached by Bill Belichick. That's why
Tom Brady had 1 passing touchdown and 1 rushing touchdown in his first playoffs. I'm not trying to hear that. And we're talking about two 50-yard field goals through driving snow. I'm not trying to hear that.
This is a good question. This is a good question here from Steve. Prior to this hire, would Patricia even been on your list of candidates for DC?
No, only because I wouldn't have thought of it. I think a lot of people forget this. A lot of the times when you see these coaching hires, sometimes there are some obvious choices. Like Brian Hartline was almost kind of obvious. We knew we could go somewhere else, but it was obvious. When we lost Jim Knowles, a lot of people had no idea where Ohio State was going to go with this. No idea. Yeah. And Matt Patricia wouldn't come into my mind because I wouldn't think Matt Patricia would take a college job. That's just me being dead honest with you. He hasn't been in the sport for how many years now? You're as accomplished as he is. It wouldn't have came up in my mind. But had you told me that Matt Patricia was looking to come back to the coaching, he was looking at college football, I would tell you he's someone you have to look at. Why? There no one that has done his job has reached the pinnacle that he has. And I think sometimes, and you could be wrong. Don't get me wrong, Ryan Day could fall flat on his face on this hire. But if you're Ryan Day and a guy that has a track record that he has, no matter the good and the bad, how do you not hire him? He's called more plays in his pinky than anyone else in that staff has defensively. I think it's hard not to make the hire when you find out a guy like him. And the thing is also, maybe I'm a little jaded because of this, but after I was tough on I mentioned this the other day, after I was tough on the Mike McDonald hire for Michigan, and I was tough because I saw what he did at Vanderbilt, which wasn't impressive, and I saw what Wink Martindale had been doing for the last few stops that he's had in the NFL, I was completely wrong. And with that being known, I'm okay with this hire. I'm okay with seeing what he has, because he's seen more football than most of these guys have.
Don't get me wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I don't want to be right in this scenario, because if I'm wrong, that means Ohio State to be good again and they could possibly repeat. So I'm hoping I'm wrong. I'm just not so sure that I am. And again, we'll find more out about this 6 months from now when they're out there in camp and have some people around. But I did want to move on to.
And one second, Burks, we're gonna get there. Don't worry about that, buddy. We're gonna get there. Just give us some time. It's been 2 months now. We'll be there soon.
Yeah, we'll get there. I I'm sure you saw the number of NFL Combine invites that Ohio State football players had. In fact, no other program had more invites than Ohio State did. They had 15 of them. 15 guys who are going to the Combine. And all 15 of those guys are likely to be drafted. And there's some guys who weren't invited who might be drafted too. All the obvious guys on offense, Will, Mecca, Trevion, Quinshawn Judkins, Donovan Jackson, Seth McLaughlin, Josh Simmons, all those guys got invites. Yep. Defensively, the entire defensive line, Sawyer, JTT, Tyleek, Ty Hamilton, and then Burke, Lathan Ransom, Cody Simon as well, and Jordan Hancock. So, anything stand out to you as far as those invites go? Do you think they should have not had as many? Do you think there should have been more? What are your thoughts?
No, I think that's the right number. And also think about this. We had guys that came back. I think if Igbinosun had went, he would have gotten drafted eventually in the first 7 rounds.
Yeah.
I think Sonny Styles would have gotten drafted had he gone. So I'm not too surprised by it. I think it's a good number of guys. I think every single one of those guys are going to get drafted. Every single one of them. The only one I think would be on the fringe.
I'm not sure there's anyone on the fringe, to be honest with you. I think they're all going to be in the first.
Seth is my one fringe guy. He's my one fringe guy.
Seth?
Yep. He's a center and a guard.
The guy who just won the best center in college football and didn't even finish the season?
That'd be that. Centers and guards are you can dime a dozen. In the NFL, if you are a guard or a center, because there's only so many center jobs. There's only so many.
Sure.
You look at the guard position. The guard is like people in the NFL will tell you you can get a bunch of guys that are tackles. You can get a 3rd round tackle. And he could probably go do what a guard does. It's because usually tackles are just better athletes than guards, and they're better players than guards. Usually they move you to guard if you can't play tackle.
I certainly think Seth will probably be drafted in one of the top 3 rounds. The Achilles injury.
So?
Yes, I do. He was great at Alabama too. Like, he's got tape there as well. So it's not just his tape here at Ohio State. The Achilles injury complicates things a little bit. No one's going to use a 1st-round pick on him or anything, but I think he's one of the top 3 rounds. I honestly think everyone gets drafted within the first 6 rounds of these invitees. I don't see anyone even coming close from this list and not being drafted. Maybe Jordan Hancock would probably be the guy that's most on the fringes in my view, but I still think he's
going to get drafted higher than everyone thinks.
I think he could too. I think he's pretty good. So I don't see anyone be necessarily on the fringes there. You want to go ahead and bring in Philip?
Yeah, bring Philip in.
What's going on, Philip?
Hey, what's up, guys? What's up? First time calling in. How to get on the show. I love what you guys have been doing with the channel.
Good to hear. So what do you got for us?
Yeah, so I just want to talk on some of the new hires. I know we've just gotten our new defensive coordinator, Matt P., and we've upgraded some guys on the defensive and offensive side. I really think that's a home run hire for getting Matt P. On the defense. I know there's been a lot of back and forth within Buckeye Nation and really college football as a whole on the hire. But in my opinion, I really think he brings a fresh set of eyes, which is always beautiful to have on the defensive side of the ball, specifically because there's such an evolution of the offensive game. Really, more the offensive side of the game is always evolving more than just the defensive side. So bringing a fresh set of eyes. Matt P., from everything I've heard, has been out here for the last year just studying the college football game. So I don't know if this is something that's been in the works between him and Ryan Day. I know they have somewhat of a relationship, just some whatever the relationship is. But I think him having the last year off, just studying college football as a whole, and bringing those fresh set of eyes, I think it's being underestimated, his impact and what's going to be to the program and even just college football as a whole.
Yeah, you are very much on the side of Garrison, on this hire, I have a different take. I certainly hope he's been doing some work during his year off, because he wasn't able to find an NFL job. No one would bring him in. So if he's been doing some studying, that would be great. I am still not as enthused about the hire for a number of reasons I talked about earlier in the show. I am hoping that I am wrong, and I'm hoping that if I am wrong, he can be a better recruiter than what both of us think he's going to be, because both of us are worried about him going into a living room and talking to an 18, 17-year-old kid about, selling the program and selling himself, because he's not, from all reports, I mean, his players did not like him in New England or in Detroit. And that's okay. You don't necessarily need to be loved by your players when you're coaching them, as long as you have a strong track record of success and you're winning games. But, that does concern me a little bit if he's a multi-year hire. And I know I talked about this on Thursday, or in the video yesterday that we made. I do see this having a potential of, maybe a crash and burn scenario where it's just a 1-year flame out, is bad decision. Day tries to go somewhere else with the hire. Again, 100% hope I'm wrong. Hope he's good enough to help coordinate this defense to a repeat title. But those are just my initial thoughts. Garrison's much more upbeat about this hire.
No, I am. I will always be more upbeat when I hear NFL guys coming to the college game, like I said earlier. Let me ask you this, Philip. Schematically, what do you like about him coming to Columbus? And what do you think he can do with some of the players that we have?
Well, I just think he's going to be way more multiple with our defensive fronts and our back seven looks than we've seen in the past several years. I know this is something like Jim Knowles was like talked about a lot coming into Ohio State with his 3-4 defense and his 4-2-5 scheme, etc. But I don't think he also. It's not that I don't think he didn't have the chance to show it, but I don't know if he really did his best to really implement the Jim Knowles defense. I don't know if that's because of his relationship with Brian Day or his relationship with Larry Johnson. But I think Matt P's going to be able to come in here and be able to really show the variable defense that we saw with the Patriots. And even just to touch up on the recruiting side of things, I always will say this as somebody that has several family members play in college and NFL, that I've always been told it's way easier to connect with college kids and college parents than it is to connect with NFL players and NFL agents. Yeah, exactly. And so I just think, I understand the whole notion, like there were people that did not like him when he was in the NFL, but you're also talking about that's NFL. This is college football. It's a lot easier for these guys kind of can be open to green eyes. They're green eyes because they see a guy like Matt P had success in the NFL, won Super Bowls, worked under Bill Belichick. Essentially, he's been where all these college football players and their families are trying to get their kids. And if anything, I think they're going to take everything he says a lot more and probably be a lot more green to it than they actually were to even Jim Knowles, because what success did Jim Knowles have in the NFL? He wasn't even in the NFL. And so he had to use a proof of concept where Matt P can just show the concept and the success. And so that goes back to what Garrison's saying. I really just think we're going to see a lot more variable secondary looks. And as much as I love Jim Knowles, I just don't think his success or his forte really was with the secondary as much. And I think that's why we saw our secondary out of position a lot of times in the key moments over the last 3 years he was here. Go back to the Georgia game, go back to the Michigan games. Our back seven was essentially out of place a lot. And I just think Matt P is able to I think he's just going to button all that up a lot quicker. And also, I don't think there's going to be as much butting heads with our defensive staff as we've seen over the last 3 years, which has been publicized, which is ridiculous in my opinion. But like I said, I think this is going to be a lot better continuity.
That's something I want to touch on specifically, Philip, is, we've heard a lot about the Jim Knowles, Larry Johnson kind of war within the defensive locker room. as far as we know, Larry Johnson's coming back. What I've been told is this is kind of up to Johnson whether or not he wants to stay one more year. Like it's been told either this is your last dance or you're just not going to come back. So I'm interested to see the dynamic between him and Patricia and how they're able to get along and who wins that internal power struggle. Because to your point, and that is part of the selling point for this hire, Patricia's defenses are more multiple. They run out of different formations. They've got his defenses had guys that could play in different scenarios. They rotated in guys for certain defensive packages a lot more. And Knowles, he played multiple defenses at Oklahoma State. He tried the first couple of years when he tried to introduce that jack position, but Larry was not having it. And that's where I wonder about the dynamic between him and Patricia, who's ultimately going to win that fight, which, I mean, quite frankly, it should be Patricia. He's the boss. Like he's Larry Johnson's boss, but Day didn't make that clear enough until the loss against Oregon, and then he let Knowles run the show. So I'm hoping that's something that was communicated clearly, that Patricia is going to be running the defensive show, whether Larry likes it or not.
Well, and just to touch on that real quick, go ahead, Garrett. I'm sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was just going to say one thing. Also, I think it's very underestimated about what happened with Jim Knowles and Larry Johnson. I think it came to a point with Brian Day where he saw like our two best defensive ends are JTT and Sawyer, and we need them on the field at all times. And where we are seeing now with this 2025 roster, we don't have no JTT or Sawyers. We don't have no guys on our defensive ends or edge rushers that are demanding to be on the field at all times like JTT and Sawyer, which is going to allow us to be more multiple in our fronts, because if we're looking for success, I don't think we're going to see success just being traditional and just having Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry as our two edges. That's not going to work. If you ask me, I really think we should get to a point where we're seeing a lot more 3-down looks, and then you have that edge rusher end where you have either Hicks or Caden Curry rotating as that edge rusher end, or that hybrid defensive end linebacker. So both of them are built for it. And I actually think we actually done Caden Curry a disservice, just making him just a edge, a 3-down, a hands down defensive end. I think he would excel and be a monster as a stand-up defensive end. So I really just hope Larry Johnson sees that vision.
Philip, where my mind is on this, running the 3-4, 4-3. I'm a 4-3 type of guy. Okay, like where I'm excited about this is that I believe that on the defense, of course, we have Caleb Downs and guys like that, but I believe that the game still starts up front, and we have a guy like named Edric Houston that I think can play a lot of different things. I think that we're in a situation where, say, like if we want to come out there in a 4-3, we can put Edric on the edge. I trust McDonald in the middle. You would hope that we have someone else up there in the middle.
See what Tyrone Malone, if he actually.
Yeah, like Malone can play, dude. Like, and don't give me listen. I mean, he's 6'4", 300. I can give a damn. Put him on the field regardless. It can't be that bad. But I think if you're able to do that, then you go 3-4. You can put Edric still on the edge. Or you can put Edric at nose guard because he's a very athletic big guy. So I believe that this is going to work out very well. I think that we have the pieces for it. Now we need some more guys on the edge, and we gotta find that either maybe another rotational piece with the transfer portal, or a D tackle through the transfer portal, or just really hope that a lot of the young guys come through. Like there's a lot of young defensive tackles on this team right now who I'm not sure are ready to play. And we're not going to find that out until spring practice. I mean, thankfully, man, Ohio State's not like Teton, where all the practices are closed. You don't get to see anything. You got to trust the coaches that are telling the truth. We found out all last year that their coaches were lying to them the whole summer. Like, thankfully, that for Ohio State, we're not in that position. We get to see it. We see everything that's on there. They post it all to Twitter. They put it on Facebook. They put it on YouTube. They're very open about what's going on outside of injuries. but even on injuries, they let you know what's going on. Like I think that I'll be more comfortable with the defensive fronts in the spring once we hear what's going on. But no, I mean, I'm in a wait and see mode. Like I'm sure you are. Like I'm sure most Ohio State fans are, and we'll. Hey man, when we get to that bridge, we'll cross it. So.
Yeah, I'll just say one last thing. And for if you ask me, what was my ideal defensive front, at least front four, I really hope we can see it a 3-4. And where I say 3-4, you have Kenyatta as the weak side. I mean, as the strong side defensive end. You have either Edric Houston or Jason Moore as the 3 tech or 5 tech, and then I know you have McDonald and Malone rotating, and then you just have as your rush end or your stand up linebacker outside guy be either Hicks and Caden Curry rotating. That's why, and I think if you run a 3-4, it kind of mitigates some of the lack of depth as well. Where if you run a 4-3 front, I mean a 4-2 front, you're kind of just that's really a system you run if you have a lot of depth and a lot of proven talent on the defensive line. And I just think with the way our unless we hit the portal and we can get somebody like you guys are talking about that's going to be like a difference maker, I just think probably a 3-4 helps with the depth issues we're seeing up front.
Yeah, and I mean, defensive end, there's more depth than there is defensive tackle. We'll see what Jason Moore ends up being. I know some people are excited about him. The spring's going to tell us a lot, and whatever this new quote unquote spring contest is, we're hopefully going to see some of these guys, doing live reps. I know Ryan Day's concerned about, since this was a longer regular season, getting the guys who were on the team a lot more rest than what there was in the past, but maybe that'll open up some reps for some of these guys who didn't play a whole lot more, like Caden McDonald and a Tywone Malone, Edric Houston. I know Houston and McDonald play a little bit more down the stretch.
There's some big guys in there, man. These I don't think can play.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Appreciate you calling in here, Phil. We've got someone else we'd like to bring in, but appreciate the call.
Hey, go Bucks! Talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Go Bucks.
I'm gonna play Mark's commercial real quick before we get first caller.
Ohio State, Michigan, the greatest rivalry in sports deserves the greatest debate in sports. Monday, February 17th at 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the main channel. It's the Ohio State, Michigan All Everything Debate with me, taking your calls all night if it takes all night. I'm pulling no punches, so beware. Bring your best intel. It's the Ohio State, Michigan All Everything Debate. It will be epic. February 17th, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Be there.
All right, I'll go ahead and bring in our next caller. What's up, Caden?
What's going on, guys? How we doing tonight?
Doing good, doing good. What do you got for us, man?
Can I please introduce myself just so everybody knows who I am and just what's going on?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I'm Caden the man. I'm also a YouTuber myself. Big Ohio State fan myself. So just figured I'd introduce myself to you guys. First time calling in a while to this show. So glad to hear you guys talking finally after I've been waiting on the show for like 5 hours. So my thoughts on Matt Patricia playing as defensive coordinator. I feel like this is a good move on our part since Jen Knowles decided to go to Penn State. I feel like, Matt Patricia with his experience in New England could really help us, bring some more energy into the defensive side of the locker room of Ohio State. And I feel like, we'll be seeing more physical, more aggressive style play from Ohio State's defense, especially when it comes up to the big games like Penn State, Michigan, Notre Dame, anybody like that. We're going to be ready to rumble, especially when we got those kinds of games coming up. Like I said, if we got to play Oregon, we're going to be ready to roll and ready to rumble against Oregon. So that's just kind of my opinion and my thought about, Matt Patricia. When I heard about it, I was like, you know what? This is a new era in Ohio State. This is where our defense is going to really thrive in, really putting the numbers out, more tackles, more sacks, more forced fumbles, more interceptions. I feel like that's where our defense is going to be letting those young guys get some reps in, and with not only spring football coming up, there's going to be boot camp in the wintertime. They have February to March boot camp, for the Buckeyes. So I follow their Instagram page pretty well. So I've seen some of their reps this morning, or sometime like this week they do some reps. So I can't wait to see what they got for the spring game. Let's see what these young guys got.
So on our last show,
Go ahead, guys.
no, yeah. So on our last show, we had a fun discussion. Well, I think it was 2 shows ago. Previously, we had this discussion. What players, and maybe Ryan, if I'm wording this question wrong, you can go ahead and do it. But which players into the spring are you excited to see, or do you think they'll break out?
I kind of feel like Jason Moore.
Go ahead,
sorry,
Kate.
what was your co-host going to say?
Oh, what I was just going to say is, he was basically asking, who do you think is going to be one of those people, specifically, on the defense, since we're talking about Patricia here.
I got a couple guys in mind, honestly. I feel like, Jason Moore, Kate McDonald, I feel like those guys are going to really help. And then Caden Curry obviously won't step in for Jack Sawyer in the but let's not forget that there's the linebacker position. We got Garrett Stover and Peyton Pierce. We got 2 of the big guys up at the linebacker position. So I feel like, with the linebackers, if they can bring more pass rushing against, like, say, Oregon's offense or, Penn State's offense, give it a little more time. I feel like that's going to really help us, especially when we got to play, like I said, Oregon, or if we're in the playoff situation where we got to play, like a good team at home or on the road or in a bowl game. That's where I feel like our defense is going to be really led, especially with those guys, the freshmen and sophomores. So that's kind of my opinion.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you giving us a call here, Caden. Thanks for calling in, and feel free to call in future shows as well. We'd love to hear from you guys. So appreciate the call.
And then there was one more thing I wanted to mention. I don't know if you guys allow. I'm going to be streaming Saturday night and Sunday night on a little new segment I'm doing. And it's going to be just talking college football Saturday night. Do what?
What's your channel called?
It's Cade the Man 614, because I'm born and raised in, I live in Columbus directly. I live in the state of Ohio, born and raised and bred. I guess you could say kind of lucky genes.
You have any socials?
No, I just have YouTube. YouTube's all kind of just give up my thoughts and opinions, and I've just had some words to say for a couple other channels, and and I just had to. Funny enough, I was just listening to. I was talking to some of my West Virginia friends. I don't know, y'all just can agree with me. Just some on matters, and I was just clarifying some matters for them. I was saying earlier today, I was saying to Mark, I said I feel like, West Virginia is a possible national championship contender. Maybe they could give us a problem. That's just my opinion. So tune in Saturday night, Sunday night at 6 p.m. So feel free to check out my channel. Go ahead if you always want to subscribe. Go ahead, subscribe if you want. Leave my channel link, or could you link my channel down in the comments? Just if anybody wants to subscribe.
Yeah, I'll do that for you, man. Yeah. So just so I have it right, is Cade the Man 614?
Yeah, if you want to put it up on screen, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and get the page right here. 1 second.
I did some shorts calling out some other fellow YouTubers that I've had that have said a few insults about Ohio State, or said just stupid things. 2 of them were Tim and Matt from down in Southern Cal. I've heard about their talk for weeks, and I had to respond.
Of course.
For 1 second. Here we go.
You don't mess with an Ohio State fan. You mess with Ohio State, you gonna get the smoke.
Yeah, man. I'll put everyone, if you want, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. I put it right there in the chat. If you define it, it's Caden the Man 614.
Like I said, I'll be streaming Saturday night and Sunday night. So if you guys want to come on in, I will be taking, phone calls as well. So you guys can chit chat with me all night. So like I said, if you want to pop on in, guys, feel free. And go
All right.
Bucks, and let's hammer out spring, and let's really get rocking and rolling, because we got Texas coming up here. So we got to really show 'em who's
That's
house.
right. That's right.
Most definitely.
All right. Appreciate it, Caden. See you.
Hey, go Bucks.
OH.
I think I might have actually hit the button, but yeah, no, OH, Caden, IO. I can't co-sign his comment that West Virginia's going to be a national championship contender, though. I won't. I don't think that's going with.
Ryan, how old are you?
30.
Okay, so you were around when you were back in the Big East days in West Virginia, Louisville,
Steve
and Rutgers.
Slayton, Pat White, when they were actually a kick away
it
from making
was-
the national title.
It was so crazy. It was like West Virginia, Rutgers, and Louisville were just so good back then.
Yeah.
It was the craziest thing. Craziest thing.
So there's one last thing I wanted to cover here at the end. It was a little bit more of a somber thing. I'm sure you saw former Ohio State football player Ben Christian unfortunately passed away at the age of 21. We don't know any of the details of that yet. There's rumors floating out there, but the last thing I want to do is speculate about something like this. So just wanted to, obviously say thoughts prayers to his family, friends. It's a shame, he was very young, like I said, only 21. Was about to play at UNLV this year after he had transferred from Kentucky after transferring from Ohio State. So he was looking to put one last good college football season together. So obviously a tragic situation there.
Oh, most definitely, man. Never want to hear that. He's a young man, lost his life, and hope, and just hope and pray nothing but blessings and peace on his family.
Yep, absolutely. Anything else you want to cover here before we jet on out?
Oh man, just I don't know why I had this one of my favorite calls. Banks Leolan Tangi. I don't know why that was on my mind, but I just love saying that.
Okay.
I love
it.
I really do.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us here today then. We'll be back on Monday for the primetime show. I'm sure we'll have some more news and notes about what this defense might look like under Patricia. There's some things from an interview, Ryan Day, he's had. I know some stuff started to come out, but I like to say on Monday. Take more of your comments as well. So we may have to maybe a little bit earlier on Monday. I may have a last work conflict. I'll have to check.
Is that passport?
But we will. I'm sorry.
Is that passport conflict?
No, work.
Oh.
It might be a last work conflict.
Oh, I was like, where are you going, bud?
No. Just last work conflict. So I'll have to get with them and see what it is. But we will be coming back to you on Monday. So until then, OH.
IO.